This is my family tree. Not completely comprehensive, but it goes back 6 generations from me. Hugh McCarron to Michael McCarron to Hugh John McCarron with his wife Margaret. They had 11 kids altogether, including my great-grandpa. And then you go down to my grandfather and aunts and uncles, my father, and then down to me. But if you move back up the chart to my great-grandfathers, who had 11 or 10 siblings, one of them was a Joseph C. McCarron, and his son was Joseph McCarron, born in 1917. And today I am with my cousin twice removed, Joseph McCarron. How you doing, Joseph?
Fine.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, I'm here in St. Louis with my, and I was very happy to meet my long-lost cousin twice removed, Joe.
Yeah.
How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And now, so you were born in 1917, right?
Correct.
And you seem to be very much the genealogist of the family.
Yeah, I have plenty of time on my hands.
Now, let's see. You were born in what, February?
February 16th.
Of 1917. Wow. And during that time, you've had a lot of history. You went and let's see. You're married now, or your wife passed away.
Now.
Yeah, but you got married and had 5 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now is So let's see. So tell me a little bit about your life from the early days.
Well, I was born in Florida, and then ended up in a lot of blank spots there because I was young yet, but moved to Chicago sometime in that period, and lived on Hamlin Avenue I went to school. My first school was out of Hamlin Avenue. I don't know the name of it. It was a public school. And then the next thing I knew, we were in Elmwood Park, had a store front and living behind it. Father had started out as a yellow cab driver. He worked nights. And as an aside, Mother used to look for change in his pocket during the day while he was sleeping to get some of the money, because that's what tips were. These were Depression days, and
Tips
now
weren't
we
cheap.
laugh at getting tips and change.
Yeah. Well, that was before the inflation that we have now.
Somewhere along the line, and I didn't really catch on to it, but apparently the folks were breaking up. And it was a no-no, of course, for an Irish youth in Chicago at that period of time to have his folks divorced.
Yeah.
And
Very unusual.
it wasn't easy. First there was a split up, and whether that meant they were going to get together again. And Father took me out to Aunt Bella's in Maywood, where I stayed and went to school in Maywood. I had gone to school in Elmwood Park, and went to a lot of schools.
Illinois, yeah.
Yeah, Illinois, sure. We're close to Chicago.
So you moved from Florida to Illinois when you were a boy?
Yeah, well, I found out I went to Michigan before that, but
wow.
but sometime after that, ended up in Chicago, yeah.
Okay.
And which I almost lost track here, but
Sorry.
anyways, I was living with Aunt Bella in Maywood with her husband, George Denon. She had two daughters, Helen and Ruth. Might as well get their names in there. Aunt Bella was a McCarron. She was a sister of my brother, my father. And one day my mother came to take me for a visit, it never came back, never took me back to Maywood. And so I ended up back with her in Elmwood Park, along with my brother who had stayed there. In other words, whatever they decided, she was keeping this younger brother and Dad was taking the older one. And then we went for a short time, the fan hit, you know what, and we were in, well, actually it was an orphanage put there, I know by the courts, but of course I didn't know it, but, and it was, for some reason I think it was St. Anthony's Orphanage, but it was a Catholic orphanage because we went to church every morning and that sort of thing. Then the divorce must have been settled, and I don't want to know what it was about. And we were put in to Bishop Quarter Boarding School for Boys. And this was also in Oak Park, 605 West Lake Street. Across the street then, what was then the the Oak Park High School auditorium, it's no longer there, neither is the school. And I stayed there for 5 years. At summertime, my brother and I did, and it was run by Dominican nuns, so it was only a boys' school and all nuns. And the priest came in, I guess, every morning. He didn't stay there as far as I could tell. And we had Mass every morning, as you might expect. And all ate in a communal refectory, just like you would in the army, sort of thing. And we were controlled by the main nun, Sister Bernard.
Okay.
And she was big enough to handle any of the boys. She had a wooden stick, you know, the kind that you use to work in a pot and stuff, but sturdy enough. And I guess I was a good boy. I never got in trouble because that basically was either talking instead of eating or horsing around or not eating your food. Brother Jim didn't like spaghetti, and he always got in trouble because he just wouldn't eat it. And I liked it. I've always liked spaghetti. And so he said whacked a couple of times. I didn't know. We probably didn't even sit together. He was a lowly first grader.
Oh, that's right. Your brother Jim was a few years younger than you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was 14 months younger, but he was 2 grades behind. It turned out that way. And in fact, I never went to 2nd grade because I kept going around to schools, first school in Chicago, then a school in Elmwood Park, school in Maywood. And so I was just going from 1st grade to 1st grade to 1st grade. And when I went to the boarding school, the nuns figured, well, you should be in 3rd grade for your age. And so I went.
Jumped up a grade.
And I could always complain, well, I missed out on whatever it was in 2nd grade. And so we, in retrospect, we sort of enjoyed the boarding school. Summertime, so we never got to go to summer camp because I guess Dad was saving money. He was working his way up in the cab company, but he was still, money was a factor. So we'd be shipped to either Grandma, or sometimes my mother was in town at the Hamlin Avenue address, and we'd stay with her, and stayed with Aunt Mary another year. Whatever year L. Smith came to town he was running for
President against Roosevelt, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
whatever year that was.
Sure.
And I remember being at Aunt Mary's when either the Graf Zeppelin or the other one passed over, looked like a mountain up there. The
Oh.
Yeah. And from there, uh, we went to uh, Berry Avenue, which was a short street down in the city, and at the juncture of Hawthorne and Clark.
In Chicago.
Berry Avenue, shot off from there. And I did my 8th grade there, and I guess Jim was 6th grade or whatever. And we enjoyed that because we got to go down, we were close to the Lake Michigan, and in the summer we were free as a bird, and go down there. And after that then, I went to St. Patrick's High School, and Dad worked across the street. He was now a garage manager with a fleet of yellow cabs. And I was taken out of there after the first semester, and what happened is he married this Polish woman, a widow. She had a young son and a daughter younger than we were, and we all moved in together out in 5944 Wrightwood Avenue, which was close to Austin Avenue and a little south of Belmont Avenue. And then I went to, after St. Patrick's, I went to Foreman, then Wright Junior before it was a junior college, and then from there I went to Schurz School, and finally my 4th year I was in the first class at Steinmetz High School.
Wow.
And as soon as I graduated, I wasn't happy there, to tell the truth.
Huh.
But I don't want to expand on it. As soon as I graduated, in fact, at the graduation, Uncle Willie, or for some of you, Grandfather William.
That was my great grandfather.
Yeah.
Which is your Uncle Willie.
Yeah.
And
that's the only name we ever knew him by.
that was him there.
He came to my graduation, gave me a pen and pencil set, and a job at his Ford agency.
McCarron Ford dealership in Chicago. Right.
Damon and Division area.
Wow. And that's where your Uncle Willie, which is my great-grandfather, as well as my grandfather and his younger brother, my granduncle Bud.
Yeah.
Even Uncle Walter worked. So you got a job there right after high school.
Yeah.
And he gave you that pen set as a present, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And I heard later from Jim that happened with him, that Uncle Willie came to his graduation, that Dad missed it because he had broken a leg, which I don't know anything about, because I was gone then. I moved out of the house when I went to work for Uncle Willie.
Okay, so you moved out and moved to Chicago, or you're already in Chicago, but you lived...
Yeah, I moved on to Damon Avenue, close by. I could walk across the street to the...
Now you said the McCarrons were from Northern Ireland, but not Northern Ireland, the British part, but the northern part of Ireland.
Yeah, the Irish part.
Yeah.
Donegal.
Donegal County, so there's...
Yeah, Donegal County, yeah.
And then
And
that
in
Minahaw...
Clonmany Parish, and there's a town there, Clonmany.
Clonmany Parish.
And then a place called Altahala.
Altahala Hill, near Minahaw, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the McCarrons are from.
Yeah, they say that that's the central point of them.
Okay, and these were some houses that you found, and you think these are very old, ancient houses.
Yeah, and the neighbors stipulated which ones were which, and these were all McCarrons.
McCarron houses. And you think these houses might be over 100, 150 years old?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That is interesting. Yeah, look a little rundown now, but nobody's lived in them
Nobody's
for
lived in
decades
it
and
for
decades.
years, I guess, yeah.
Wow. So that's your father, Joseph Sr., and that was during World War II.
So 1944, let's say.
And that was him as a boy.
Correct.
And he was lived from 1895 to 1970.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is around 1900, but I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. That was a picture of your brother who fought his way up Italy during the whole war, pretty much. And I always thought, looking at photos, your brother looked a lot like you, So, your brother James, who passed away 6 years ago. Yeah. Okay, yeah, picture you and your brother around 1940, and you're the one playing the guitar.
Right.
Wow, that is neat. So you said that was a Rockney Studebaker that
Rockney, like Newt Rockney?
Yeah.
Rockney.
Rockney Studebaker.
He was big then.
There's one there of him again. That was Joe, and that's his brother Jim. Like I said, they look very similar. And your brother Jim had the luxury homes. You said you think it was Albuquerque, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, which one was this one again? Which person was this again?
Oh, James Harkin McCarron.
James Harkin McCarron. He was uncle of yours? Right?
No, he was a brother of Hugh McCarron.
Oh, it's Hugh's brother. Okay, so we're going up a bit. Okay. And you said he was in the Indian Wars and World War One.
Yeah, the end of the Indian War. He was in the same outfit that Custer was.
Oh, wow.
The 7th Cavalry.
So he was Hugh's brother. Okay. Wow. And there was you and your brother, James. It was James on the left, right?
Yeah, James on the left.
And you're on the right. And Joyce, a half-sister, is in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That was your mother?
Correct.
Wow. And there was the other picture of your mother. Before the auto accident, obviously. Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
Or maybe she... Okay. Yeah, this was in the photos I found at my dad's house from my grandma left behind. This may have been a McCarron truck. You're saying it might have been, but it's stripped down. It's hard to say. The chassis or whatever of a McCarron truck. Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez. So that's your uncle, George. The one that I had a picture of earlier with the little girl. Goofballing in a prisoner's uniform. That's cute. My grandfather, William, which is Joe's cousin. There's a picture of him as a little baby. Looks very similar to me, my sister, a few other McCarrons. Or McCarron relations. My grandma and grandpa on their wedding day. Joe never met my grandmother. He might have met her barely, but he didn't know any of the kids, one of which was my father. And there was grandma and grandpa on the left, and I'm not sure the woman, Uncle Bud on the right, who was grandpa's brother. And there was grandpa in, his middle-aged days. And grandma and grandpa kind of as I remember them. Yeah, so, yeah. And then one of the siblings I didn't mark down, one of my aunts and uncles, was Bobby, who died when he was only a few years old, around the early 40s. That was a tragedy. My dad never got over that. Here's Joe and his brother Jim when they were kids, probably around 1920 or so. The cute picture. Yeah, so we're unsure of these photos, but there's a possibility it could be Hugh McCarron, maybe. But it could also be the Walsh side, which married the wife of George McCarron. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Now, Joe, what's the name of this church in Ireland that you visited?
St. Mary's in Clonmany.
St. Mary's in Clonmany, and that's where Michael got married, and Hugh was actually born there, or baptized there. Wow. Well, Joe, I know I'll probably kick myself later and say I forgot something, but any final words of wisdom on McCarron family history or life or anything, or
Anything? Well, I'll say this, that Michael McCarron came in to America with his first son, the only one born in Ireland, and his wife, and they came in through Boston and were there through at least 1865, and they later went to Detroit, Michigan, and well, the older folks lived there till they died, and some of the McCarron scatter that I've never been able to track down, but I've been able to track down the youngest son and the oldest son, who was Hugh,
Mm-hmm.
and the second son, who was a Michael, and he never had children except an adopted child. And one, James Harkin, I thought had never married, but apparently he did marry, but had no children. And he is famous for killing a bear in Alaska or the Yukon. I'm not sure exactly which. When he jumped out of a canoe to get onto land and scared up a couple of bears. I don't know who was more afraid, but one came after him and he killed it, and it made the news, a sports magazine, but I've never known which one. And he was also a musician, and he has painted one of the presidents, but I don't know which one. And generally, he had an interesting life, and he died out west in a home. But when he was supposed to be in the home, I found him still prospecting in California for gold. He was a prospector, besides being in the 7th Cavalry, and that sort of thing. He went into 2 wars. The second one, he became an officer, and he was about age 50 or so. I can't vouch to the exact age, but...
Which one was this again? Which McCarron was this?
This is James Harkin McCarron.
James Harkin McCarron, okay. Wow.
The one that we have a photo of him as an officer.
He was
in World War
brother.
I.
He was brother, right?
Yeah, he was one
Okay.
of the brothers.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much. It's been fascinating to get some McCarron history, and it'll enrich generations. So, thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Joe. Well, I know I said we were done, but I had to get this coat of arms real quick. The McCarron coat of arms with a camel head on top. And it's gold on top, 2/3 bottom is red. And Joe, you were saying real quick that you believe our family, Michael, came over in 1854 with his baby Hugh, right?
Right.
Because earlier I was telling everybody we came over between 1881 and 1883. I must have misread something, because you said that Michael's other son was born in 1854 in Boston, which meant he had to come over, and since he was born in 1853 in Ireland, that means he had to come over in 1854 pretty much. So, or the end of 1853.
Now, I did hear a story that Hugh came over later with others of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But it couldn't have been the immediate family, because they were newlyweds.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So their second, third children first half dozen about were born in Boston, then the rest were born in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
But the first one was born in Ireland in 1853, and the second one in 1854 or 5, depending on the what date you believe. So they had to come about 1854.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Joe. Okay, I'm with cousin twice removed Joe McCarron again. He's moved since the last time I interviewed him, and but we're still in the same town, Kirkwood, Missouri,
Yeah.
which is part of St. Louis, pretty much, or very close to. So anyway, I was going to ask you a few questions, maybe that I didn't get to last time, and then it's possible we'll repeat a couple things. But generally speaking, I wanted to after that get to a couple of the McCarron history items, and then also your life since World War II. So first, I wanted to let's see, ask you. Okay, just a few questions I wanted to go into. Let's see. You were okay. You talked about your Uncle Willie, my great grandpa, and you said and this consensus between you and your brother, what he wrote about him was that Uncle Willie was pretty grumpy and grouchy. And now I'm just going to ask this for the heck of it, but was he ever loving or affectionate? Did he ever hug or say "I love you" or any of that, or was it always pretty much
I never saw that.
never? Okay. Now, let's see. Any?
In fact, my father never did that.
Yeah, it's some people more than others. Others
I
not so much.
I don't know whether it was the time when people kind of hid their feelings. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you. My grandfather, William McCarron, your cousin, Bill, I know you said that because he was about 10 years older than you, that you were not as close to him. You did not know him real well. I mean, you knew him, but you were not as close as you were to maybe perhaps say Bud. So what I wanted to ask is, do you have any memories specifically? Hold on one second. Okay, any specific memories about any conversations at all with cousin Bill? Like anything you could drum up, like where you talked about something, or any trivial memories, any little things you could point out that you remember at all.
Well, like I say, had more input with Bud. And even when we were little and used to go to the house, I think he probably was the one up in the second story. This is Uncle Willie's house, making off he was Santa Claus or something, that sort of thing. Because he was more that type. He used to kid me.
Bud was.
Bud,
Yeah.
So whether it's just a matter of age difference, that he was a little closer to us. Because when we were young, he was younger, probably before he worked, that sort of thing. And the others were always more serious.
Okay. So you just don't. But there's no thing that you ever talked to Bill about that you can remember off the top of your head. No. I mean, I know, like, if I talked to somebody in grade school, I can't remember the conversation, but I'm wondering if you remembered anything. Did you ever talk about sports or about business or about that you remember that sticks out in your mind
No,
with Bill?
no, I don't remember.
Okay, so you remember him, just not
Even my
specific.
Walter, Uncle Walter had an office, but he was mostly away. When he'd come in, he didn't talk to anybody, it seemed, he'd just go in his office and do whatever he did in the office. Probably used the phone or something. Because he was wrapped up, even though he says he's part of the business, he was always wrapped up in the other part, well, somewhere along the line it was politics, but also the trucking business. Starting, I think he was editor of the paper or magazine that they put out. Neither one, it's a different term than that. What would it be called? Sort of a
Publication.
publication for the motor outfit.
Okay. Okay, Joe. So we were talking a minute ago about I wanted to ask you about any gangster-related stuff in the family. Now, a couple things. One was the 1962 bombing of Walter Jr., which was in the Tribune or some major Chicago newspaper. You thought that was they were aiming for Walter Sr. and maybe got Jr. by accident. It was a union type of thing.
Well, a report that I have somewhere was by Walter stating that it was not Walter Jr.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Stating that it was his father should have been Bob. Not should have been Bob.
They were aiming for it. They were targeting.
They were aiming for it.
Yeah. Wow.
And
you think that was because they wanted to
the
take...
implication
Go ahead.
was that he was involved with the trucking organization that he was a big part of, if not the main person. And he ran it for quite a while. And I'm sure that the bigger unions, we don't want to get mixed up between gangster and unions, but this stretch isn't very big. You know what I mean? We know the unions were often controlled by gangsters, at least back a ways. And so if I say gangsters, I mean the other.
A lot of times
big,
there's tie-ins.
the National Union, whatever it was then.
Okay. So, back then, do you think that the reason they did the bombing, they were aiming for Walter Sr. and they wanted to take over the Union, or was that something, and that was the reason they
Wanted
bombed
him
them?
to maybe agree to compromise or become, join up.
Okay.
Because they were powerful in the Midwest, Walter's Union. I say Walter's Union, I'm not indicating it was his, but
Yeah.
but he was a power figure in it.
Which union was he a power figure in, Walter?
I think it was the Midwest. Didn't it say something in it a bit?
Oh, yeah, it was, let me see. Okay, I have the obituary of Walter, a brief one. It said he was a Cook County coroner from 1952 to 1960, the first Republican to occupy the office since 1928. He was Oak Park Republican committeeman for 12 years, active for service in the family-owned McCarron Trucking Company, and for 25 years, executive director of the Illinois Motor Truck Operators Association. Was that a union?
That's it.
Okay, and a publisher of the Motorway Transport, a national
That's,
trucking
I have a
publication.
copy of that somewhere, one of them.
So,
Not in the house here.
so his mobsters probably trying to get him to play ball with them.
That's what it was, yeah.
Okay. Now you also mentioned, off camera a minute ago, we were talking about your father knew something about some.
Well, he was manager in the company at the time that there were union strikes going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this was apart from the Chicago Yellow Cab and Checker War. That was different. That was a battle between who was going to be the big company.
Now I don't mean to interrupt you, but your father, you said he ran a garage before, but what you meant was it was a taxi garage,
Yeah.
right? And it was so your father was a manager of a taxi company. Is that correct?
Well, they had more than one garage, but
Okay.
this was the one downtown area.
So your father was manager of one of the garages
Yeah,
of a
well,
taxi.
later it became above that.
Okay. And so, what were you saying a minute ago about anyway?
Well, he was referring to a time when people were organizing unions, and they also were doing it for the cab companies.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an individual, can't say it, talk this morning, who was trying to organize that particular garage. And the most he ever would admit to was that he got word one day to put that person in the garage, cab number so-and-so, to drive it.
Okay. And do you know why your father was asked to?
Well, he knew what it was for. They were going to beat him up.
Oh, jeez.
That's what it was for. He never said what happened. I'm assuming he just got beat up.
You're talking about a cab driver?
He was a cab driver, but he was trying to organize a union in the garage. You
Wow.
got to get that picture.
Yeah.
I got the picture, but from a later date, you don't get it.
Wow. So yeah, so the mobsters did not want him to try to organize a union here.
Oh no, this wasn't monsters than that.
This
This
was
was just the cab companies.
the cab company themselves were beating him up, or trying to get somebody
No,
to beat him up.
they'd have people come in, but there wasn't regular gang. The gangsters, per se, were gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, into liquor, into prostitution, and all that. And then they started getting into unions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they were that far along on that. I think it was just the company trying to break unions.
Okay, so which company did your father work? Was it Yellow or Checker?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Wow. So his bosses were telling him to get the cab
That's
driver.
what it amounted to.
Oh, jeez.
That's, yeah, and they have what they call strike breakers. No, they had a different name for them, but
Scab.
they'd come with weapons, not guns, but they'd come with
Bats or
clubbing
something.
it at, say, a rally or something. And it used to be pretty brutal.
Jeez. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Did Uncle Willie get mad at you when you quit your job there to be an elevator operator? Like, was he mad when you quit?
Like that I know of.
So you just gave him a notice and said, "Hey, I got another job," and he was okay with it.
I guess so. I don't.
You don't have much memory of quitting specifically, right?
Well, I had a better offer, even though it was part-time, it was going to be more money.
But I mean, Uncle Willie didn't get offended that you're going to
don't-
someone.
He probably didn't know it till maybe someday he said, where's Joe or something.
Oh, so you talked to a middle manager, not Uncle Willie, about quitting then, right? Probably.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Okay. And let's see.
It's not like nowadays. It was just, it was a corporation, but it was a small outfit.
Yeah.
And family mostly, and I don't know, just
I hear you.
not like nowadays where they write something, I'm quitting. There's none of that, There was no, like, I go crazy in some of the stuff I'm doing because it was, people didn't have, Social Security or numbers or anything. They could almost use any name and there was no way of checking, that sort of thing.
Oh, I know, but since you were his nephew and he knew you personally, I was wondering if he didn't seem offended that you quit for another job or
Probably
something.
not.
Okay. And
He probably made room for me
yeah.
out of high school. He came to Jim mentions that.
You're Joe. Your brother Jim.
Jim mentions that. Well, I got a son, Joe, too.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
That's true.
Jim mentioned him going to his graduation. He
Yeah.
went to my graduation too.
Yeah, you mentioned that he gave you a pen set
Pen and pencil set.
and offered you a job, and then your brother Jim wrote down that Uncle Willie, my great grandpa, gave him a job too when he graduated Steinmetz High School, I believe it was. And yeah, that was interesting reading Jim's account. I'd love to talk to him if he were still around,
Yeah, because he stayed with the McCarrons when I left. I left
to become an
work.
elevator operator.
But by 1937 I was going out of Chicago, and he was just starting probably to drive for Uncle Willie, all that sort, probably for lunch money. Maybe not even money, just lunch.
Yeah.
But there's interesting things about Uncle Willie. Like I've said, I can remember he and I, because when he's talking about, we were just talking about him crabbing at the people on strike, and
Strikers,
that sort
yeah.
of thing. Well, we were younger then. I wasn't working yet for him, that sort of thing. So why we were riding with him, I don't know.
Okay.
At one time, when I was working with him, he took me to the courthouse to see a trial.
Oh yeah.
And it was a trial, I guess, somewhere out in the suburb where the poor guy who was bringing up charges against this guy lived out in the suburbs, and the day I was in at the trial with Uncle Willie, which he did warn me about, was this big, huge, I'll say it right out, Italian-looking gangster
Oh wow.
was on trial for, they'd go around and, collect money from the business.
Oh, Muscle Man, yeah.
Muscle Man. And this, you couldn't make it in the movies more obvious. And the poor meek-looking guy somehow or other had guts enough to
To testify against him.
And the big bruiser had that day had his neighbors come in and say what a good guy he was. Well, probably he was in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
It was in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
He had to behave. He was somewhere up the line, I guess. It wasn't the big wheel, but it was bigger as far as size. And I don't know if Uncle Willie went to it every day or not, or whatever happened in the trial, whether the guy who won.
But you watched part of the trial, right?
I watched the one day,
Oh wow, okay.
but the day I watched was so like the movies where the obvious size difference,
Yeah.
the meekness, it could hardly,
It was like some out of a James
even
Cagney
though he
movie.
tried to talk well and all that, it was so obvious he was.
A big thug, yeah.
But then he brought in these well-to-do neighbors who, all they knew, he's always a good guy, probably afraid to say anything else.
Oh boy. That would have been interesting. I wish we
It
had.
was an interesting period, really, in Chicago.
Yeah, the post Capone, yeah.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't post.
It was during the Capone era.
Oh yeah, because
Oh, yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, up to the 40s. So that was the 30. Yeah, that would have been the
yeah,
That would have been interesting. Like it's some out of a James Cagney movie.
yeah, we were alive when the Valentine's Day massacre. We were along in age.
Wow. Now, let's see. What do you know about my granduncle Walter, your cousin Walter's World War I experience?
I don't think he went overseas, but I can't be sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he got in the motor pool or sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just by the name of the thing, just like Dad when he went in 45, he was as a specialist in automotive because he'd been in that business
Okay.
with the artillery.
So probably Walter did not see combat.
Not that I know of, but he had the equipment because I once saw his World War I hat.
Yeah.
I didn't see any uniform, but he had kept that. You keep stuff like that.
Your father was never on World War I, was he?
No,
Okay.
but I saw the draft information.
Okay.
All that stuff is in the paper. I got it for Walter too. It's not in there, but I've got it. I've got so much stuff that you haven't seen. That's why I ran a couple of copies off of Murphy there to show you some of the stuff I picked out of the.
From my mom's side, yeah.
Well, yeah, but it just happens to this is what I used for source. Going back each census and finding a birth date and or wedding date, which I was trying to get, death dates, and that's what makes up that.
Okay. Now, can you tell me real quick about that robbery that happened at the McCarron Ford dealership? I guess this is a favorite story.
Well, it's not something I saw, and it happened sometime after I left, but it was told by Walter Jr. And they were down below while William was
My great grandfather, your Uncle
Was-
Willie.
in the garage area where the workers were.
And you said it was similar to the TV show Taxi, where Danny
Right.
DeVito, Louis De Palma, the character, was
he
up in that
above.
cage.
He had his office
And you said it would
up
look
above.
similar to that, right?
Except he used it for sleeping quarters
Sleeping quarters.
and to watch the workers.
Okay. So,
And apparently the robbery was occurring downstairs, where the money was, anyways. And he was sleeping upstairs, and they were practically on their knees praying that he wouldn't wake up because he had a pistol up there of some sort, and would have come, knowing his attitude, that he would have come down gun blazing or trying to stop it. And they were afraid because more afraid of him than the robbers.
jeez.
The robbers apparently were civil, you know, they just weren't there to kill, they were just to rob.
Wow. So what happened in the end? Did they rob the place and Uncle Willie never woke up?
Yeah, that's right.
Did they say anything about what happened when he woke up and found out about the robbery? Or, I can imagine.
I didn't ask.
Did they ever catch the robbers, or do you know? Or?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay. Let's see.
Part of the expense of doing business.
Yeah, boy.
I'm sure they didn't have that type of insurance then.
Okay.
Reported to be the Hugh McCarron number one, dating back to the 1800s.
Early 1800s.
Early 1800s. This is inside it with myself and two daughters. And
Patty
actually,
and Debbie? Or is that Patty
Debbie
and
and
Linda?
Patty, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is some of the natives of the area who we got part of our information from.
Okay.
And this is another McCarron house, only I don't know which one. But he and 5 of his children died and are buried right on the plot. I talked too much already, and just buried there. And it was during 1845, 1850, during the
Famines.
famine. Well, it may have been disease, but I have to get a drink.
Okay. And is that same one again? One of the other McCarron place?
I think this is another one.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's okay, cool. Okay, you're saying this house here was where Michael and Hugh Senior,
Michael, Hugh, and Ellen.
they all lived before they moved to America.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the last house he lived
The
in.
last one. Well, and where's this located in Ireland
A
again?
place called Binion, but of course it's not far from that.
It's near Donegal.
Oh, it's in Donegal.
It's in Donegal County.
Yeah.
Okay. Binion's just a.
Remember, they didn't have vehicles to drive around in and all that. They didn't go that far from anywhere.
Okay. And just for a quick overview's sake, here's Ireland in general. And Donegal is here, and where the little dot is roughly the area where the McCarrons are all from, around
Yeah.
Altahala.
Altahala is
Yeah.
the Townland.
Okay.
Township.
Township. Okay, so here's a picture of your mother, Joe. Lillian, but she was born Julia, right? Julia. What was the last name?
Healy.
Healy. And she passed away in 1966. Am I correct?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
You're better at it than me. Well, I do with so many dates and stuff.
Okay. Now let me see this. You were in Dachau. You were there shortly after the liberation. Do you think you got to Dachau like just 1 or 2 days or a week after the
Oh,
liberation?
yeah. Well, we were attached to the 45th Division, and they entered into it. I'm not even sure how much fighting there was because the Germans already were starting to, trying to get people out and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The live prisoners. And like I didn't know till just recently that Dachau had 3 camps. And I think we were at the main camp because Debbie, I had mentioned 45th Division. She says, well, there's a different division I saw. Well, then I looked up and there were 3 different camps and 3 different divisions. You liberated them.
So
This is
these were not your photographs. They were taken by the
No,
by the company.
But I have
But
photographs.
you do have photographs you took with your own camera. They're
And
just not
I
here right
have
now.
photographs of our bulldozers digging trenches
Wow.
for the people to just dump the bodies in. And these were the local people that somebody in power, American in power, I don't know who, made them come out, go through the line.
Oh, the locals had to bury them. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
The local Germans, yeah.
Oh, we didn't know about this. Well,
Yeah, they claim
they had to
ignorance.
smell it.
Yeah, it's like, boy, how could you not know what's going
Yeah.
on,
And,
Okay.
when ran across German prisoners, well, Italian, for instance. Mm-hmm. We were their buddies, they thought. Mm-hmm. Because never saw an Italian against us, but the Germans, were a little more reserved, but I never felt hate for another soldier because you feel they're in the same boat you're in a
Yeah.
way. But I think this changed when they got to these camps. That changed a lot of people's
Perception,
feelings.
yeah. Yeah, that had to be pretty horrible. So sometime, maybe not today, but sometime if you get those other pictures that you took with your own camera, with the bulldozer that you described, I wouldn't mind seeing those either. But you say you think that when you got there, it was within a day or so after the liberation?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty sure. Yeah, because our people were involved in stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
I think even after some of us left to go somewhere else.
Okay.
So,
Now,
except that we were box camera guys,
mm-hmm.
and and like I said, and I'm showing pictures of the war and stuff, and I said, they're probably wondering, it's like you're doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're doing something, you're not doing anything with the box camera.
Yeah.
Don't even have it maybe on you. You know what I mean? We weren't war cameramen.
But you're using your own camera
We
for
were,
photos.
one we picked up somewhere, and this Italian kid,
Mm-hmm.
he claimed he couldn't speak Italian, but he could always get stuff from them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, and in
And he
your
got the
outfit.
film. We didn't get film from the government. We had to get overseas film, whatever it was. So I had a lot of stuff thanks to him, because he had worked at a photography studio. This kid I'm talking about.
The Italian American soldier, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when he got home, and he sent me all copies of all these pictures and he even had them marked up by dates, and I get so crazy, like we're looking there's photos missing. I got a number there, so I know the photo somewhere.
Okay.
It must be good because they wouldn't take it. But it may be somewhere around, but it's only my family, but
Okay.
still. And same way with, I had these all blocked a week at a time. And, well, partly it falls apart in time, but these kids start looking through it and they never put it back, no matter how much I tell. So I can't tell always what order
No.
stuff is. And had it so much in order, like from the beginning to the war.
Chronological,
to the end,
yeah. Well, now this is going to be a totally different subject here, but the McCarron coat of arms that you showed me last time I was here, and I videotaped it. Do you know why there's a camel's head on the top of that, or no?
Don't know.
No idea.
I'd like to think,
Uh huh.
because I don't want to build the things up. They probably were camel herders.
I don't know.
And
I was gonna say in Ireland.
no, if they go back far enough, they might have been in the
Middle East.
Crusades.
I'm just wondering if it was a symbolic thing, like we endure like a camel.
Well, the Healy's got 3 lion's heads.
Yeah, that's true, and that's like a royalty
And,
symbol.
and theirs is real for sure. I'm a little doubtful about the McCarron one.
Okay, so the camel
It's
thing
based
might
on the name Karen, but that's
that mean like black or something like that, or in Gaelic or Carrion. I can't remember.
well, it's supposed to be Scottish, which is all right because I've done the Y-DNA. Did I ever tell you that?
No, what is it?
Had the DNA taken, they were doing the survey and kind of like volunteers, although you paid to get it. And it showed that my DNA fits the DNA of the Northern
Okay.
Irish. It didn't, no surprise,
Okay.
except that we are a fairly small group. Only 20% of Northern Ireland is from our group. And our group goes back to Neal. I'm trying to say it like might sound in Gaelic, but Neil, let's
Okay.
say, yeah, and he was, he's noted for when he defeats a group, he takes not a slave so much as take somebody in authority as a hostage, and I think he was called Neil of the Seven Hostages. Had 7 important people from England and Scotland, wherever, and but anyways, doing this this group we're in, we're also in Scotland, so who knows which came first there.
So it's
The
okay.
Y-DNA also goes across into Scotland. Of course, there's a lot in the U.S. because I
Yeah.
remember the paper saying 2 million Irishmen in America descended from royalty. Well, but if you call a guy, and they all were at one time, a guy who went around plundering
Oh, jeez.
and ships and stuff like that,
Yeah, like Viking.
maybe when they became rich and all that, they're called king or something, but
Oh yeah, but not literally.
but not.
Okay. Okay, Joe. So I got some interesting parts of your life today and part of McCarron history. But we're probably, like I just talked to you about, not going to finish this interview today. When I come back again, I'll talk to you about your life, particularly from World War II on. So, just wanted to thank you for everything, and we'll pick it up next time, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, so when World War II ended, you were, how long did you stay in the Army for?
Through October 45.
And then you were shipped home, discharged, right?
My brother and I landed almost we landed the same month.
Okay.
And we both went to Dad's house. I hadn't been there for years,
Mm-hmm.
but my mother had been put in a home because she had been left alone.
Yeah.
I
After
thought
that.
everything was okay when I left up in Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and she had never been well after the accident.
Yeah, you were telling.
Yeah. So I guess she was wandering around alone. You know, an old lady, and well, she wasn't that old really, but when I got home, she was in a place in Wisconsin, a home, and so I had known that early on in the Army. I guess Brother Jim had told me,
Mm-hmm.
and from that time on, I decided to start saving money, and they took money out of my big paycheck to put in bonds, really government war bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came home, I had $1,600, and that tided me over.
No, yeah, back in the day, that was more.
Yeah,
Was
but I had. They didn't leave it in banks or anything, so I had to leave it with Dad, and hoping.
Mm,
But he's, as far as I know, he kept it all.
okay. And did your now you said Uncle Willie, my great grandfather, he died just a couple weeks after the war ended, and obviously you couldn't make the funeral because you still hadn't come home from the war yet. And was the story that he had gone down to Florida and come back in Georgia on the way home? And
I'm
he was,
not sure. I thought it was on the way home that my dad said, but it could have been on the way. But what he did say is that a priest in the neighboring town had recognized him being in Mass that morning. So that made some people satisfied that he'd been to church that day before.
okay.
Obviously just died in a heart attack in the, whatever you want to call it.
So he pulled over the side of the road and had a heart attack in
Apparently got
Georgia.
over to the side of the road.
Was he on vacation in Florida, or do you know?
That's what it was, yeah.
Okay.
You already know what you're gonna ask.
This is Joe McCarron Jr., or Joe the Third, and we are in Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery in St. Louis County, where we just had a ceremony over here. There was a table and everything for your dad, Joe McCarron Sr., who passed away. And his ashes were there. They had a flag ceremony. They handed you the flag. And they're going to intern the ashes up in near Freeport, Illinois, where the cemetery, which I filmed earlier, where his wife is laid to rest. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I did that first video interview with Joe Sr., and we went up to his life and McCarron family history and his life up to the end of World War II. Then I did a second video interview where I was going to continue from World War II on, but we got sidetracked talking about a lot of other things in his life or McCarron family history. Again, we never really got there. So what I'd like to do, Joe passed away on Tuesday, I think 6 days ago. And what I'd like to do is, with his son, Joe Jr., who's just about my age, is fill in the gaps for the history of Joe's life after World War II. And I did talk to Joe Sr., and Joe told me a lot of things, but I never had it on videotape. So I'm going to bring some of that up. Now, Joe Jr., from what I understand, when your dad got discharged at the war, he came back home, and didn't your grandfather, the Joe Sr., didn't he open up like a fishery and restaurant somewhere? Something like that. Didn't he work for that when he got home from the war? I mean, that I understood something like that, no?
My father or his
Your,
father?
his father, your grandpa. Like I understood there was like a fishery, a fish hatchery up in Wisconsin or something, but it was also a restaurant too.
They had something going on that I think All I can tell you is it didn't pan out.
It didn't, but he worked. I thought he worked there for a little while.
I thought it was some kind of shop, but I don't really know any more than that.
Okay.
It was some kind of shop that he tried out.
That's what I remember. And then later he got on a road crew or something like that, or was he? You know, when he eventually ended up meeting your mom, wasn't that the case? Like either a road crew or some sort of
Are we talking about my father?
your
now?
father, yeah,
Yeah, he was doing something like that actually with his brother.
his brother Jim,
My
yeah.
Uncle Jim, and she worked at a restaurant that was owned by my grandfather, her father, and that's where they met.
Okay, and they were about 16 years apart, right?
14.
14.
She was 16, he was 30,
Okay.
and that wasn't so odd back then. Now, I think
These days it's taboo, yeah.
I think it'd be, yeah, but they didn't hook up actually until 1832. So when they got married,
Yeah.
and
Oh, they were 18 and 32 when they got married. Okay.
yeah, and you didn't mess around back then until you got married. At least that's what I was
Officially.
told. At least that's what they said.
Yeah.
My mother told me, but
My last girlfriend and I were, you know, she was 19 and I was almost 37 when we started dating, so we had a 17-year gap. So I can identify with your dad.
well, I like young women myself.
Yeah, same here.
They're
Yeah.
when they're my age, they're a little.
No, gee, trust me, I know where you're coming from, bud.
They're a little bit more cynical.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
So,
I keep telling my daughter, bring some of your girlfriends.
friends, you're reading my mind, I swear. We think great minds think alike. Definitely, or McCarron
Now that
say.
she's 27.
Yeah. So he worked. I thought he worked on a road crew or someone came through there and to that restaurant, and that's how I met her.
Yeah, he did a lot of work, you know, a lot of different kind of stuff, you know, lumberjack, surveyor. He did a lot of different things, so, but, you know, low paying kind of labor kind of jobs.
And was their marriage ceremony? I guess was it just a quick courthouse thing?
It did, from what I heard, it wasn't any big thing. It was just those two went off somewhere, I think by themselves, as far as I know.
You don't know what date they got
I never
married,
saw
no?
any wedding pictures or anything, just them in a picture, a marriage picture of some kind, and
1949, I guess they got married.
49.
Yeah.
and as far as I know, I never saw any wedding pictures. I never heard about a wedding. I think they just kind of made it a quiet thing with the two of them.
Yeah, and your mom, I
As far as
saw
I know,
young pictures of your mom. She was a very beautiful woman.
she was.
You know.
She modeled. They asked some guy on the Illinois University, I guess when he was going to school there, she was pretty young and hanging around there, doing some kind of small work there. I don't.
And her name was Polly Rogers when she was born, and then she
Right.
became Polly
Her
McCarron.
name. And some guy asked her to model, and she modeled. Did some advertisement, magazine.
Really? When she was a teenager?
Well,
After she got married?
she was about 19 or something.
Okay.
Soon after they were married, they didn't have kids yet, and he was on the campus, and somebody saw her, and there's pictures of her too.
I didn't know that. I'd like to see that sometime, yeah.
Yeah, she's posing with clothes, and
So, now what were some of the jobs? So, kind of give me a progress from the time they got married, like kids, jobs that he had, places that he moved. Kind of give me a synopsis of what happened, you know, in what order after that, you know?
after that,
Well, you know, from the time, let's say from the time he got married. Okay, the jobs, the
went to
moving.
school.
Went to
Pretty
school?
soon after that, and they were pretty poor. They were poor.
Where'd he go to school at?
University of Illinois.
Oh, okay, so he's up by Champaign-Urbana,
Right.
not where I live, but that's my state, yeah.
And you went to Northern Illinois.
I went to NIU, Northern DeKalb, where I still live in DeKalb, yeah.
Right. And then,
My nephew graduated U of I. Yeah.
as far as I know, it was he could have went in, got his PhD finished up, but
What major?
got well, mathematics, you know, science. Was his, you know,
And he actually taught for a while. I didn't even remember him telling me that before.
astronomy teacher up at the Science Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
He had an impressive life.
Yeah. His later life, he lived quietly.
He got a map job, right?
I say quietly, but he went out traveling. He traveled the world by himself. He wanted to go alone, and I don't blame him. He went out and traveled a lot.
He didn't take your mom with too much, or?
She was living. They were separated for a while. They were
Oh, I didn't know
separated
that.
for several years. She lived in Denver. I lived with her in Denver.
Did they
I went
get
to
back
high school in Denver.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did they ever get back together?
Yeah, when she got sick, she came back and they lived together in the last, let's see, probably mid-90s. She got sick and she couldn't work anymore. And
How long were they separated
from
for?
95 to 2008, when she died, they were together. They were, I was 12, and 12, about 12 years.
Wow.
She lived in Denver, Texas, Houston, Texas, and Minnesota.
Your dad's a nice guy. I'm surprised they couldn't get along well, you know?
I don't know.
Well, I guess people have their
She was
issues.
a difficult woman.
Again, I know nothing about her, yeah.
She just wanted to go off on her own and be her own woman, I guess.
Uh,
I don't know all the details. I was busy with my own thing.
I hear you.
When you're a young guy, that's not my problem.
So basically, his first two kids were the twins, Debbie and Linda. What?
That's when he got out of college early and went to work.
And was that the work with the map thing, the cartoon? And what was that again? It was the.
That's all he did till 1982.
And what was the official? It was a government agency, right?
Yeah, so 1954 to, well, might have been a little later, 1955 approximately to 1982.
And what was the name of the agency you worked for?
God, I know
It's the
it.
United States something.
Defense Mapping Agency, I think.
So they studied maps, they made maps.
I know it, I just can't think of everything. But it's down there right now, it's downtown, St. Louis, right on the riverfront.
And what was his job in there? What did he do with the maps?
Well, I don't know all the details of that.
Okay. But something to do with military maps, yeah, creating them or analyzing them or something.
You know a little bit about history, you ever heard of the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, his crew, I guess, discovered those
Missiles.
hiding missiles over there in Cuba.
Wow.
They were the ones that discovered it. And you know, the funny thing about it, I asked him a lot of questions, and still, I guess, to the end, he goes, some things are secret that I was sworn to secrecy about, so there's some things that he couldn't speak about.
He took with him, huh?
Yeah, he took with him.
Wow.
And he was, he took an oath, so, and he stuck to it.
Wow.
So there were some things that happened that probably would have been surprised by, but he couldn't go there.
Huh.
He worked for the government,
Wow. So he got that job about 10 years after the war.
Yeah.
And he was married by then. And what years were Debbie and Linda born, do you remember?
54.
54.
1954.
Okay, so he's still in college or just getting out of college, right?
Yeah, they were like born there in Champaign.
In Champaign, okay.
And they came over. I won't swear to it, but they might have went somewhere else in between, but then they ended up here in Maplewood.
Okay, and when was the next daughter, Patty, born?
57.
And then Kitty, the
58.
fourth daughter, 58. And then 7 more years before you were born, the first boy, Joe, and the last child,
1965.
65. And you're 7 months younger than me, or just a few months. You're August, right? This month is your birthday?
They call 1965 when America culturally completely changed the culture. I mean,
That's when we started Nam,
yeah, the Nam thing, it was a real cultural change. And I always say 1965 really was, they said 1965, the 50s ended. In other words, the culture was still kind of the same as it was
Yeah.
in the 50s until 1965. People still dressing the same and listening to similar music and clothes.
The fedora hats, even for older people.
Yeah, they were still,
Yeah.
Kennedy killed the hat business, they say.
Yeah.
But,
So you were basically Yeah, basically so they had you guys in a row, and he was working on that map thing pretty much your whole,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's,
your whole life up
He
until you were
stayed with
17 when he retired.
he stayed with that company.
Do
Paid the
you,
bills, I guess.
do you remember, did he have a retirement party or something, or,
I was in Denver.
okay, with your mom?
No. Well, yeah, I was with her. Let's see. Then I went back there to live on my own for a while. I back and forth a lot. But at the time they had the party and all that, I was not there.
And your siblings, did they stay with your dad, or were they already adults by the time your parents separated?
Some of us stayed. Debbie was married in 72.
Yeah, 73, yeah.
And
They married pretty
Linda
young.
was born 78, somewhere around there.
Or you mean
I don't
married?
even really remember living with Debbie. I was so young.
Wow.
So, and then Patty would leave and come back, leave and come back. And Katie and me stayed there for quite a while. Kind of with the kids in the house there for a while.
Huh.
Throughout the early 80s and all.
Wow, so he had 5 kids, and his main career through his life, the main one was that through the map agency.
Yeah. Everything before that was low-paying stuff. It wasn't career stuff.
And then after, so he had a very long retirement. That's like 34 years, right?
Yes.
Depending on what month he retired, you don't remember what month, in 82, no?
Yeah, that was 34 years. It's a long one.
I know because my last girlfriend was born in 82 and she's 34 now.
Yeah.
So, you know, unless it was late in
Most
the year.
people don't get to retire that long.
Yeah, that was a nice, and you know, your dad was so healthy and everything all the way up until a year or two ago. So, and like I said, I always have a big regret that I could not come here for a 100th birthday party like I wanted to, you know. But
We kind of figured he wouldn't. That 99
Yeah.
weekend he would get pretty bad. So
I kind of, from what I was hearing, I was biting my nails too. I don't think he's gonna make it till February next year. You know?
I didn't. His quality of life was so low, so
Yeah.
it was not very much fun. Not a lot of joy at the end for him. So just everything was just shutting down.
Do you know what he officially passed away from, or was there an official cause?
Old
or
age.
Just old age, yeah.
Officially, everything just was shutting down.
Uh,
The, well, I don't. Did you see his foot? It was rotting away.
no, I didn't. No.
Couldn't remove it. He was too old, so if we would have removed the foot, he wouldn't have survived the operation because of his age.
Oh my God. Was it gangrene or something?
Well, eventually it would have became that. We had him on antibiotics, just keeping him alive, but everything just, the liver shut down, kidneys shutting down, heart started finally, his heart was good for a long time, but everything was shutting down, his mind was shutting down.
And this is all in the last 2 years,
And
right?
He had become so weak, he just couldn't do anything, couldn't lift himself up, and if you helped him, everything hurt him. If you touched him like that, he would be in pain, so it was real hard. It was not a lot of fun. He just slept a lot. It was hard.
It's too bad because he was up and walking all the way. Was it? Would you say 2 years ago is when everything started going bad?
Yeah, well, a year and a half, I'd say.
Really?
His 98th birthday, I was going to take him to the barber to get his hair cut, and that's when he was getting hard. He was just getting up and would have had to be on a walker. And that's when he started doing the walker. He was walking around pretty well before that. And yeah, so he had it wasn't a long illness, it was, he got to live healthy for a long time. He's always been old to me.
Yeah, your whole life, huh?
Yeah, he's always seemed like an old guy to me, so.
Well, let's see, in 1965,
He was 48.
48 years old, wow.
Yeah.
And so by the time you even have memories of him, he's into his 50s, you know?
Yeah, I was the guy with the oldest father, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was the guy with the old dad, but he was in good shape, so.
Yeah, he was. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting was on the World War II honor flight, everybody, all the old veterans were able to take one relative with them. And when I saw a video of it, everybody's exiting the plane. It's like the relative pushing the veteran, in a wheelchair, one after the other after coming off the plane. They videotape. But your dad is just out there walking alongside him. He seemed to be the one guy's on his feet back then.
Yeah, he was probably older than a lot of them.
Yeah.
He was kind of old when he went in. A lot of them were 18. He was like 24 when he got in. So by the end of the war, he was 27. He was no kid.
Yeah.
However, I didn't go with him. You saw video footage of that?
I saw video footage of them coming back from the other flight.
Like 2008 or something, 2009, something like
I
that.
think so, because I think I met him in person in 2010.
Yeah, so they went on a plane out there, and
Who'd he go with?
my sister Kitty.
Kitty, okay.
I didn't go. I don't fly.
I love DC, but I've never seen that
I have
place.
to drive everywhere
I hear you.
if I go because I have a sinusitis. If I get on a plane, it's like torture.
Oh.
Torture.
And but what you were telling me, you went with your dad to the 50th reunion of his veterans group.
He had never gone till the last one, and I go, well, it's the 50th, so let's go. Nah, he said, nah. I go, I'll go with you. And he goes, well, if you go with me. So I went with him, and I met all those old guys I'd seen in the photographs,
Uh-huh.
and I recognized them right away.
Wow.
And they saw me, and I was that age when they last saw him, so they said they knew it was him because they saw me. They said, that's how we remember you. They wouldn't have recognized him.
Yeah, because you look like he did back then,
Right.
and he looked like an old man they would have never recognized.
No, he wouldn't. And he shrunk so much. He did. You know, he didn't look the same.
Yeah, I seen pictures of him as a young man. You did have a strong resemblance to him
Yeah.
back then, so.
And yeah, how old he got, you'll never see me look like that because I won't make it that way.
Oh, I hope you do. I hope you do, buddy. You know.
Because I smoke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna smoke one even if it bothers you. I'm pretty far away from you.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much what I wanted to know anyway. So thank you, Joe.
Sure.
And you have a good one. And
There was no more questions.
that's about all I could think of. If I think of any else, I'll do a quick addendum. Okay. Signing out.
You got a scan of the cemetery?